This message was recorded live at the 2019 Mass Hope Christian Homeschool and Family Discipleship Convention in Worcester, Massachusetts. The message is copyrighted by the Massachusetts Homeschool Organization of Parent Educators. All rights reserved. To learn more about Mass Hope, visit masshope.org. This is Homeschooling, 7 Steps to a Great Start by Jessica Mura, number 1908.
All right, well, we're going to get started this morning. Some of the workshops that you're in will have someone come up and say who the presenter is. This morning, I get to do it myself. I am Jessica Mura, and I'm excited to share with you this morning. Let's make sure that's right. Yeah. So, since you're here today, you are likely either considering homeschooling in the future, or you've pulled a student and are homeschooling now, or you're looking to homeschool possibly this next year. You're probably trying to figure out, do I really know what I'm doing? Or you haven't looked at it at all and you have no idea what you're doing. So this will be a great place to start. For some of you, your spouse may be all in and excited just like you are. Others, you may have a spouse who's very concerned and doesn't know much about it. My hope is that you'll leave this workshop better prepared to start, that you will know what it can look like to homeschool in your home, and that you will have some of the tools that you need to have a great start. Before we begin, let me just open up in prayer and ask for God's wisdom. Dear God, I thank you that you give us wisdom when we ask. I pray this morning that you would control my words, that you would allow people to hear what you want them to hear. I pray that you would get the glory and nothing else. We pray this in your Son's name. Amen. This is my family. That picture was taken Easter Sunday, but these are my 7 children. They range in age from 10 years old to 10 weeks old. Sydney, Rachel, Madison, and Caitlin. We had 4 girls, and then we had a little boy, Cameron. And then we had Evelyn, who's 2, and Lincoln is 10 weeks old. You'll probably see them around, hopefully not in here right now. They vary greatly in their learning styles. They're so close in age, you'd think that maybe they'd be the same, but they're like night and day different. They keep me on my toes and surrounded by piles of laundry. These are my parents, Walt and Glenda Graham. They actually taught this workshop for almost 30 years. Stepped down last year. And they began homeschooling us right around that same time, about 30 years. My sister graduated from high school 3 years ago, and we had a retirement party for my mom. But they were faithful, and they finished well, and they're a great example for all of us. These are my siblings. I'm one of 6. 4 of us have children, and all of the Graham nieces and nephews, with the exception of one, are homeschooled, but all of my siblings agree that homeschooling prepared us so well to be able to go forward and live a life that is honoring to God and where we succeed and do well. So let's look a little bit before you begin. Before you begin, you need to count the costs and you need to make the commitment. We think of costs financially, and that is part of it. You can homeschool a child at home for anywhere from $50 to $1,000 per student per year. If you're getting like an online accredited class where it's like a schoolroom, it can be more than that, but it doesn't have to be much. You also want to consider if a spouse is going to stop working outside of the home and moving home, you're going to have to consider what does that look like for your budget, and change lifestyle changes if needed so that finances are not a huge stress. Also, if you're a stay-at-home parent, it's going to cost you your time alone. It's going to cost you household chores time. It's going to cost you going out for lunch with a friend when maybe your kids would have been in school. And it's also going to cost you emotional availability when your spouse comes home. And he's excited, or whichever one's working, to talk, and you're just emotionally spent from your day. You're going to have to learn to save some energy. And for the spouse coming home, you're going to have to really try to understand when you walk in and she smiles at you and says, I just need to go to the bedroom for like 10 minutes because that is truly the only alone time that she's had. Please understand when I say she at home and he coming home from work, sometimes those roles are reversed, but it's easier today just to stick with that one. But I do know several men who stay home and teach their children. And then you want to make the commitment. We commit ourselves to teach our children at home for 1 full year. It teaches our children how to follow through on decisions made when maybe it's not going the easiest, it's not the best. It's also really hard for teachers when you are pulling them in and out of school. I know some people who pull their kids in multiple times. The kids don't know what has been taught. You may have been teaching them, but it's not the same scope and sequence. And it's really hard. It's hard on the administrators. And you really want your superintendent and your principal to be somewhat of on your team. Okay? When you're putting them in and out, it makes it really hard. So our recommendation is to make a 1-year commitment to homeschool and make it 1 year at a time. Don't look much further than that and don't look less. All right, let's get started. James 4:6 says that God resists the proud but gives grace to the humble. So the first step in getting started is to get help. Ecclesiastes 4:17 says that a 3-fold cord is not easily broken. So you should get help from your family, your church, and a homeschooling community, which will be up here in a minute. We're going to look at family first. You want to start off with your immediate family. Talk to your husband or wife about your interest in or desire to homeschool. You don't know how many people we've talked to who one spouse has already considered it. They've really been thinking about it for a long time. They are all in, and then they mention it to their husband or their wife, and they're like, what is going on? So make sure to talk to them. They are your built-in support system. Talk about concerns, your fears. Set some dreams and goals. Communicate and be in agreement about homeschooling. That does not mean that both have to be as excited about it as the other, but you do need both spouses to give the green light, to go ahead and say, hey, let's give this a shot. If not, even if you believe it is the best thing to do, respect the other one, respect your spouse, and choose to wait, pray. God knows what's going to be best, but in order to be successful, you have to be in agreement. Also, talk to your children. Have discussions with them. They are a big part of homeschooling. You may be doing the teaching, but they have to do the learning. Talk to them. Again, they have thoughts, they have fears, they have concerns about it, right? What about my friends? What about how will I see people? What about, I don't want to learn from you, Mom. Sometimes that comes out. But pray with them. Let them have a part. In the end, you as the parent will make that decision, but let them express themselves and be heard. It will go a long way for getting them on board with what you're wanting to do. Be there for each other. This is a big change for everyone involved, especially if you have students who are in school or who are already counting down to going to school, and the excitement that will come with it. Just encourage, affirm, be a family that communicates well. So, lastly, you want to get help from grandparents. When I was younger, a friend of mine's mom talked to her parents about their decision to homeschool. Her father, my friend's grandfather, was sure that she was involved in some kind of a cult, and she was going to ruin her kids. You just want to keep them home. What is going on? After a number of years of homeschooling, he still thought she was involved in a cult, but he stated, but at least it's a good one. Okay. Not sure there are good cults, but the point is he saw really good things. My parents also, they decided to homeschool my older brother when he was going into kindergarten. They put him into preschool for socialization, and at the end of the year, when they had parent-teacher conferences, they said, he's really smart, he's doing well, but he doesn't play with other children well. He does things and then walks away, and they get in trouble, and my parents were like, that's the whole reason. So they considered homeschooling and decided. When my grandmother called, they live in Missouri, called to say, hey, is Josh so excited about starting kindergarten, going to school, getting on the school bus? And my mom had to say, oh, we're homeschooling him. And it got really quiet. The phone call ended pretty quickly, and within days, my father received a several-page letter from my grandfather, which doesn't usually happen, but he expressed concern about this decision. He even went so far as to ask, what are you preparing him to be, a monk? Like, what are you doing? You're going to keep him inside all the time. Well, at some point down the road, that next year or so, my brother asked my grandfather to help with a science project. My grandfather was a airline pilot, and he just asked, hey, can you take some pictures? I'm wanting to do a report on this. Well, my grandfather got so excited about being able to be involved that he brought in a recorder, tape at the time it was a tape recorder, and recorded an entire flight. He put together a trifold with this big picture of them in it. You name it, he got it. He was so excited. And that went so far for getting them on board, realizing, wow, they can learn and we can be part of it. They saw that we had academic achievement, that we were relatively socially normal. So the point is, involve your parents as much as possible. They know what they know. If you are not homeschooled or have not been around many, they know a traditional school setting. They know what that entails. They know they go to the concerts. They know they go to a Christmas production. They know, whatever it is. So involve them so that they can see that there is a place for them. Take advantage of the free grandparent pass that Mass Hope offers. Bring them here. My in-laws were not against homeschooling. I was homeschooled all the way through high school. My husband was not. He was in the public school system. And after coming here and seeing all the resources that were available, hearing people talk intellectually about how to teach your children, it went a long way for them, and they got excited about it as well. Okay, secondly, you're going to get help from your church. You should have a good and active relationship with a Bible-believing and teaching church. God established the church to be the primary source of building up his people to serve him effectively. If you are not involved, it's not going to happen. So don't allow homeschooling to so take over your life to the point that you pull back from other relationships with people who aren't homeschooling. Sometimes you can fall into that, right? You get your group. But you really need to make sure that you don't get locked in there. And then thirdly, you want to get help from a homeschooling community, and there are many ways to do this. If you're on Facebook, search for your area and the name homeschooling. I quickly went into Central Mass and put in Central Massachusetts, Worcester homeschoolers. A couple came up, Central Mass homeschoolers and families, Central Mass Christian homeschool co-op. There were a couple join. While these groups are virtual, they can turn into in-person get-togethers via field trips, getting together for co-ops, for different classes. So it's a great way to connect with people. But an in-person support group is also really important. I know that downstairs at the Mass Hope table, I didn't go past there today, but they usually have a bulletin board that has all of the support groups in the area on there. Get connected with one. Avoiding isolation is going to be key to success. You are home with your kids a lot, and you're going to want to go out and say, my kid, we're having a really hard week, and have people be able to relate to where you are. And then lastly, get other helps. This convention is usually actually always, the last full weekend in April. Put it on your calendar. Have it be a time of encouragement. There are many magazines. You may have some in the bag that you got when you came in. You can follow speakers that you maybe find that you love here. Follow them on Facebook. They post articles. You can hear them speak. Get help. That's the other help I just talked about. James 1:5 says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, and it shall be given him. So, you need to obviously, point number 2, choose and order curriculum. There's many things to consider. One is God's wisdom. Ask him for it, and he will give it to you. I'm just letting you know. It's going to feel, if you are a note taker like I am, I'm going to fly through some of this. You will not be able to take all the notes, and it's going to bother you. So please make sure the best you can to listen and to hear what I'm saying, because you actually will process it, even if you're not a verbal processor. I'm going to give you enough so that when you go downstairs to the exhibit hall and you talk to an exhibitor, you can kind of understand what they're talking about, okay? But so the second thing you want to consider is your child's learning style. A learning style is the way your child will learn best and is best motivated to learn. They may be able to learn a different way, but this will excite them. They typically fall into one of 4 categories. They're visual. They either like to see it to learn it. Auditory. They could sit there and listen to it be spoken out on a CD, and they can regurgitate it like that. They hear and they learn. Reading/writing, where they just like to see it, they like to write it. Seeing the pictures on the page, the words on the page, not pictures. Words on the page will do it for them. And then kinesthetic, which is moving. They need to learn by doing. They'd be the ones that you say, okay, you need to learn fractions, so let's get out our moldable sand that you can move. And you know what? Let's start. You have 1 pile. Let's move it into 4. Okay, guess what? Now pick up 1. That's 1/4. They need to do it, and they will learn so quickly. Okay? It's also a great idea for you to take a learning styles test to understand how you best learn, which is usually how you will teach. Okay? It's not always going to match your students, and you have to give and take, right? Try to teach the way that they learn, and they will have to give a little bit as well. You can find tests online to figure out what learning style y'all are. A great tool, you can write this one down, is KathyDuffyReviews.com. It's Kathy with a C, and then DUFFY, reviews.com. She has a book called 102 Top Picks for Homeschool Curriculum. I have found that it's only in an e-copy now. She used to have it all printed. Everything's going digital. But in there, she actually pairs up phenomenal curriculum and has it your teaching style and your child's learning style, and will tell you what curriculum best matches that. Fantastic, so you don't have to do so much trial and error. So yeah, take into consideration your learning style, your personality. Some curriculum, I mean, it's just they sit there and do it. Some interaction, so take, your personality in, and also your budget. You could go downstairs and spend a whole lot of money, or you don't have to. Okay, so we will talk about that. And then lastly, what others are doing and have done. Talk to veteran homeschoolers, especially if they know you. They will know a lot of what will match up with who you are, what will fit well within your family. Fantastic wealth of knowledge. They've been there and done that already. Let their experiences work for you. Okay, there are multiple types of curriculum. Traditional curriculum is the workbook / textbook curriculum that you are used to seeing within a typical school setting. They're grade specific. They can be more expensive. You could go downstairs today to Bob Jones or to Becca and say, I want the entire set of your 4th grade curriculum, and they can get it for you. They are designed to be used in a classroom setting, so there are a lot of problems that they will give you, because in a classroom setting, some kids get it really fast, right? But the teachers need kids to be busy while they are walking around and helping other students. So, you really just need to pay attention to how much work you're giving your kids. When I was homeschooled, I don't know how old I was, maybe 10, my friend's mom had them using a start to finish traditional school workbook, textbook, curriculum. And she was having them do every problem on every page in every book. She didn't know any better, right? This is what we have. This is what we do. Well, she decided that at the end of the year, she was going to turn in some samples of their work for the year, and she wanted her kids to draw a cover picture, right? You know, like, we'll put it on top, it's going to be great. Well, when she saw what she drew, she knew that she couldn't use it. The kids had drawn, in the middle, a huge stack of papers, okay, tall. And on one side, they had drawn themselves, saying, oh, no, and then Mommy with jagged teeth on the other side, ha, 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 okay? And she realized very quickly, this isn't working. And she changed up what they were doing. They had a successful many years of homeschooling. And now I'm going to go through these very quickly again. Note takers, I apologize. Programmed curriculum is self-paced. It's often based on sequential workbooks, where they can just work through workbooks and keep going, keep moving. It doesn't take very much preparation, but it's not very suitable for younger grades, and it can be boring to a certain extent because it's not very interactive. They really sit down and do workbooks. Some kids are like that. They learn that way. Some examples are Alpha and Omega, ACE. I have written here technological. My dad actually put these slides together. I'd probably say digital curriculum. It's a better term for it now. It's often what you'd think of as online classes. Some of the curriculum is free that you can find out there online. Some is expensive. Some is full accredited school that the kids would only learn through there. Some is self-paced, and you can pick and choose what classes you want your kids to take online. Some people find having their kids learn everything online works great for them. We found that it works much better for us supplementally, where we find little bits and pieces. Oh, I need, they're not learning well. Through me teaching, what can I find out there for them? Popular websites. You will hear these all over the place. And you probably already know if you have a preschooler, but ABC Mouse, Switched on Schoolhouse, Time for Learning, Discovery K-12, All-in-One Homeschooling, which is also known as Easy Peasy, OutSchool, Veritas Press, Liberty Academy, Keystone. There's so many out there. Feel free to catch up with me afterwards. You can get these web addresses or email me. I'll do that as well. But you can also find YouTube to find mini educational songs. We've been going through the states, learning state capitals about each state. There are some fantastic songs out there that I can turn on. They watch, they sing, and they have learned them. Also, there are classes that are just on DVD. Our kids take a Spanish class and are learning fantastically through a DVD. I think he's actually downstairs, Senor Gamache. But a really fun way for them to learn. When you get to high school, he actually has live classes on there where you are in a virtual classroom with other kids around the country. My sister took it for 2 or 3 years, and she is fluent in Spanish. She's currently serving in Portugal, but with lots of Spanish speakers. She was in Spain for a year. So set her up for great. Thematic, or a unit study, as it's often known. It's an integrated study. It means that you take basic school subjects and they're studied in light of a particular topic, theme, or historical period instead of isolated subjects. So say we are learning about states, and I decided, guess what? For the state of Massachusetts, we're going to turn it into a unit study. So as we're learning about Massachusetts, now we're going to talk about geography, right? Where is it at? Let's talk about how many miles it takes you to get from one side of the state to the other. How about top to bottom? You're starting to do math, okay? You could put it, and then you're talking about history. Where did it come from? It all goes together. On the downside, it can have gaps, because if you're just going subject to subject or topic to topic, you may have gaps in their learning. But it's a great way, in my opinion, to use it as a fun break for a couple of weeks. Like, let's jump into a topic all the way. Some examples of these are Sunlight, Konos, Weaver, and Design a Study. There's a vendor downstairs, exhibitor, who talks on this. If it comes to my mind, I'll let you know. She would be good to talk to. And then lastly is classical education. Classical education is based off of the trivium, which, I want to get this right, which is stages and ways of learning that coincide with a child's cognitive development. Okay? It goes with the way your child is growing, and they base it off of that. I cannot speak super articulately to it. It's a fantastic way to learn. I don't use it very often because it's hard if you have kids who are far apart in their abilities, and because I have such a wide range, it'd be very tricky for me. But there's a group now, small groups, a co-op called Classical Conversations. It's a co-op where you get together and you learn a lot of the basic things for the week. You go home and you build on it. So many people who decide to teach with classical education end up doing classical conversations. But downstairs, I know there's 2 vendors that can talk more articulately about this, and they're Classical Academic Press and Classical Conversations. So you'll see them down there. Also, quickly, if you're pulling your child out of school, you may want to consider giving them a placement test to see where they are in each subject. Because even in a traditional school setting, if they are doing well, it does not mean that they will test at grade level in all subjects, especially if you're getting like a Christian school curriculum. They tend to have not higher standard in a bad way. They just have smaller grades and are able to do that. You can get these placement tests through christianliberty.com. It's designed and used by Christian schools around the nation. It will confirm that your student is ready for the grade level that you want to purchase. If your child tests below, no big deal. That's what's so beautiful, truly, about homeschooling. You teach them where they're at, and they will excel. You may have a child who is brilliant at math and has such a hard time sitting and holding a pencil and writing. it hurts them, and you can see it. So you can teach accordingly and go as slow as you need or as fast as you need. It's also helpful to pick up. I went downstairs. They do have them. A scope and sequence. BJU Press has it. Abeka has it. A lot of the bigger curriculums. It will show you what they're teaching in each grade and in each subject. It's just helpful to see what they're, you can't really see it, but it's helpful to see what they're teaching in each grade, not because you have to teach it that grade, but it's kind of, you have a checklist, right? Hey, maybe like my 4th grade daughter, guess what? I probably taught her some stuff this year that's 2nd grade, but my 2nd grader learned it with my 4th grader. So it doesn't really matter as long as they're getting the information they need. And then you need to start as simple as possible and order in a timely manner. If you go downstairs today, has anybody been down there in there yet today? A little overwhelming if you haven't been before. If you're not sure, you can always just go with a major publisher's curriculum. Get a couple of their books. If you don't know what to get, don't feel like you have to buy this weekend. There is no big rush there. But any curriculum will work if the teacher works. Usually you can adapt it to what you need it to be. If it really isn't working, don't hesitate to change. You're not really losing money because you've learned so much about the way your child is learning, about how you teach, and you won't go back to that again. You've made great strides. And then order in a timely manner. 3 weeks before you begin is too late, and 3 years is too early. The worst time to order, is late summer and early fall. So many of these curriculum providers are trying to get big orders out to schools, and they are swamped. So there will be a delay. The best time is early to late spring, even into midsummer. But again, don't feel like you need to buy everything. If you are confident, purchase it, like, yes, this is what we want. Otherwise, you can start school even if you don't have all of your curriculum. You are a mom, and you will give them what they need. Next year, you'll be able to purchase earlier. You'll kind of know a little bit more. Luke 1:3 says, "Many have taken in hand to set forth in order a declaration of those things which are most surely believed among us. It seemed good to me also." It's important to develop a written educational philosophy and plan. Okay, for many reasons, it's going to help you chart your course. It's going to give you a way to look back and to evaluate. There's also going to be days that are hard where looking at your purpose is the one thing that's going to keep you going on to the next day. You need to look at why. Why are we homeschooling? My child has severe anxiety in the school system, and I need them home. I believe this to be the best way to raise my son or daughter to love and honor God and be a good citizen. Figure it out. Pick one and decide why. Who's going to teach? Who's the primary teacher at your home? Because your spouse might think it's you, and you might think it's them. So decide, who's going to act like the principal? They come home at the end of the day, and you're like, the principal's here. Is there anyone you're going to delegate teaching to regularly? Maybe a co-op, or have your child taking an art class. Decide it and write it down. And then what subjects are you teaching? A really good place to start is to look at your state's laws regarding homeschooling, and whatever they require you to do, make sure you write that down for sure. You may want to add in some character development or maybe Bible knowledge, but put that right down there. And then when are you going to? In the mornings? Afternoons? Are you going to take off a traditional summer, or are you going to do it all year? Some people are avid skiers, and they'll take the winter off and go off and do that and do school all summer. Figure out for your family what works best. And then where? Where's the majority of the teaching going to take place? Is it in a co-op, dining room table? Is there a room set up for school? And then how? How are you going to teach? Using a textbook, using online resources. You may want to put in there how. Make sure you can evaluate your students using a standardized test of some sort in there. Proverbs 11:14, "Where no counsel is, the people fall, but in the multitude of counselors there is safety." And Galatians 6:2, "Bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ." Step 4 is join HSLDA, which is Homeschool Legal Defense Association. It is well worth the investment. They will help you navigate the legal requirements for each state. If you ever need representation due to an educational problem, they will work with you all the way up through the Supreme Court. They will defend and do what they need to do at no extra cost to you. I did not look downstairs to see what it is per year. I want to say it's like 110. It's well worth it. A couple years ago, our school district in New York reported us to Child Protective Services because they said they did not get our paperwork. They had it. When they showed up at our door, I called HSLDA and said, what do I do? Thankfully, I had printout copies, and I showed them. I sent them. Look, it's here. They still had to do their mandatory 3-month follow-up where they check on your family. They found it was unsubstantiated. But knowing I could call at any point was just a relief. It's very much worth it. They also support the cause of homeschooling, not just in our country, but around the globe. And many of the laws that we have that say we can homeschool is due to them putting in the hard work. So it's worth supporting even if you don't think you need it. But yeah, it can be expensive to get all the way up through the Supreme Court should need be, and they've tried cases up in there. So for a small amount, you could save a lot of money. Mark 12:17 says, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and Romans 13:1, let every soul be subject to the higher powers. The powers that be are ordained of God. Take care of the legal requirements. In Massachusetts, when your child turns 6 years old by December 31st, to age 16, they are required by law to be in school. This equals every year 180 days, 900 hours up through elementary and middle school, 990 for high school. Those hours are actually really easy to get, truly. If you are baking and they are measuring, you can count it as school hours, right? They're doing math. If you're talking about why does the cupcake rise, and you're talking about how hot air expands, you're talking about science. So you don't really have to try to track out all these exact hours. And then you don't have to wait and be approved in advance. You already are technically approved. If you were to pull your student out and send in a letter of your intent saying, I will be homeschooling my child, you can start homeschooling then. You do not have to wait for them to say, okay, we let you. Okay? The burden of proof falls on the school district to prove that you are not teaching your children. Okay? So as long as you have pulled them and you truly are teaching them, it's really hard for them to make the case the other way. And there are no required home visits. Sometimes school districts don't know the law, and that's where HSLDA is great to say, hey, they'll write a letter on your behalf. And then with taking care of the legal requirements, you want to be open and honest and have a good conscience. Teach your children if you're keeping them home. There is concern always out there on behalf of the school. They feel like they are supposed to be taking care of your children, and there is concern. We hear of cases, one recently in California, where they say they are homeschooling and no one ever sees the children, and they truly are locked in the closet. They truly are kept from society. My father would always bring us down to our state representative when he was in our area just to introduce ourselves. We are a family. We do homeschool. Our superintendent, every couple of years, we'd go down just to meet, have a face. They can see that we are dressed and we are out and about and we can converse, we can read. So that goes a long way. So just be as open and honest as you can with the people around you. Proverbs 27:23 says, be diligent to know the state of your flocks. And Proverbs 6:6-8, go to the ant, consider her ways and be wise, which provides her food in the summer. All right, here we go. Number 6, evaluate and prepare yourself. First, you want to prepare yourself spiritually. There is a battle that's going on, and we need to be prepared. Are you reading God's word? Are you meditating? Psalms 1 talks about how God blesses those who delights in the law of the Lord, and that even means homeschooling. Don't get caught up with only academics. Make sure that you let God's Spirit lead you. Secondly, be self-disciplined. It is needed. Practice getting up on time. Follow a schedule. You have all summer to prepare this. Discipline yourself to keep learning. Be a role model to your children. And then your marriage. Homeschooling brings extra stress on a marriage relationship. Strengthen it now. Learn and practice how to communicate. Set aside time for yourselves. Whichever spouse is coming home after work to the one at home, be prepared to buy pizza at least once a month on those really hard days when you've called her and you realized, oh, this was not such a great day. Be an encouragement. Also, you want to prepare your children. Your children need to listen to learn from you. They need to do what you say, when you say it, the way you say it. A child who has been properly trained and disciplined will respect his parents and respond to their teaching. It is really important that they obey when you tell them to and the way you tell them to. Doesn't mean perfection, no way. But we have a 2-finger rule in our house. We expect them to do it the first time they're asked with a good attitude. Doesn't mean they're going to feel happy about doing it, but the way they are doing it, they need to have a good attitude while they are. Be a disciple-making parent. Chap Bettis is downstairs, I believe, in his disciple-making parent booth. Fantastic book he's written, but how not to just get obedient actions, but how to reach your child's heart. How to get them to realize that it's really not about what I'm doing, but what I'm feeling inside and what my actions are coming out. Rules without relationship leads to rebellion. You need to make sure you're not just your kid's teacher, but that you are there with them, that you are listening to them, laughing with them, crying with them, be there. Prepare them to help around the house, give them chores. Even toddlers can do that. Pick up your toys, help with the pet food. They're part of your family. As soon as they know everyone has a role to play, it works much better. And then prepare them for what your homeschooling is going to look like. Do they have to be up in the morning, ready to be able to walk out the house if you needed to? Are there things you want them to have done? Can they stay in their PJs all morning? Some families say yes. So share with them so that they are well prepared. If you have one expectation and they have a complete other one, it's going to lead to unnecessary conflict, where they may not even really be in disagreement with you, but they didn't know. And then prepare your home. It's your primary place of learning. Use it to its fullest potential, okay? Determine where you're going to teach, where you're going to keep your teaching materials. Don't just leave them stacked up in textbook, in piles. Declutter, do a thorough cleaning of your house, because ladies, so many of you know, and I know, that the one cabinet that is disorganized that you may not even frequently get into, as soon as you sit down to try to teach, your mind will continually be thinking about that cabinet. It works that way. Trust me, I didn't prepare well this year, and I still have that cabinet. It has not been good. So my mom always said external clutter is directly related to internal clutter. So have a place for everything in its place. I know when we really get our house picked up and organized, my kids feel free. They will dance. They will just want to sit there and relax, and you want to have that environment, not a feeling of tension within your house. Prepare your tools, okay? Have a home for your curriculum. I said don't leave it sitting around. A whiteboard, dry erase board, about this size. Fantastic tool. You can write on it when you teach. They can write on it to give you answers. Can't speak highly enough of that. Maybe a computer or a tablet. DVDs. If you have instructional DVDs, don't put them with your kids' fun DVDs. My daughter just the other day, I need to do math. Where's this DVD? I don't know. So I taught her with my own words, but a DVD is great for it. Also bins, milk, what are they called? Milk crates. They're like this big plastic. We have each child have one of those. They keep all their textbooks, their notebooks, their things in it. They know exactly where everything is. Also, flexibility. If we want to go to the park and the little ones are going to play, but we still have to do schoolwork, hey, grab your bin. And we just take it and go. It's fantastic for that. For the first day, or not the first day, getting ready, getting school materials, make it be a fun day. Take them out. You probably don't need tons of stuff. Let them pick out a new notebook. Let them pick out a thing of colored pencils. Make it fun and exciting. Your records. I actually borrowed this from Rod and staff downstairs. This is an invaluable tool for record keeping, okay? It is a weekly planner for a teacher where you can put the date across the top, put the subjects down the side, and then the teacher would go in and plan out their year, okay? But instead of using it as a teacher's plan book, you are going to use it as a daily record book, okay? So on here, dates, subjects, but instead the student or you, depending on their age, will actually write down what they did that day. Math, we did chapter 25E, whatever it is, because inevitably you're going to be sick or your child will. And that whole day has to be moved back, right? And that can happen. And now you have to erase weeks at a time, and it doesn't work so well. Also, you may have a student who you teach one thing, and they've got it, and you realize we can go to the next chapter. And you do a couple chapters that day, but now your weeks are all off. So use it for what you actually did. 2 Corinthians 8:11 says, "Now perform the doing of it, that as there was a readiness of the will, so there may be a performance." We're going to get started. Be faithful. Consistency in anything is a key component to success. Your child needs to know that most days are going to look pretty much the same. Teach them with perseverance, even when you don't feel like it. There's going to be days they don't either. And then be flexible, okay? First day of school, teaching my older brother, they had set up a cool little classroom in their bedroom, maps. They had a cool desk they got from a yard sale. And my mom and my brother were in there teaching and learning. And she had made a pan of brownies to be enjoyed after schoolwork was done and had it up on the counter. And myself and my younger brother, we were playing in the house. I got on the counter, pulled the brownies down. She came out of the bedroom to brownies everywhere. She was strewn everywhere. And very quickly she realized she needed to be flexible with where they're teaching, moved to the dining room table, and that's where they stayed. She could see everything and everybody. So don't be so set on your plans that you lose the ability to be flexible when you need to change. That didn't change. There we go. All right, sample schedule. 8 a.m. breakfast, Bible/devotions in our house. Our kids have to be ready for the day, not shoes on, but they need to be up and dressed. Their beds are made. The older ones do their own devotions. The younger ones, they know to pray to start their day, talk to God and say, this is your day, help me to live for you. At 8:30, honestly, it's a little bit closer to 9 because my husband heads off to work in that period. But we start instruction, and we are done by noon. We have lunch. We have flexible time. They take piano lessons. They're involved in a group called Awana where they're memorizing verses. Any chores that they have to do during that time, we get it all done out of the way, and then they have free time the rest of the day. If you have kindergarten or first grade, you really only need 1 hour broken up. You don't sit for that hour. You break it up. They don't need much to get what they need. First, second grade, 2 hours about, but in more than one setting. You don't sit there for 2 hours. Again, teach, let them have a break, come back, do something else. Third through sixth grade, it's about 3 hours. Doesn't mean you will be teaching the whole time. They'll be doing work as well, but plan on 3 hours of academic time. And then higher grades as needed. Often they will have a report to write, or maybe they are having to memorize things, or they have reading to do. They can do that in the afternoon, but 3 hours, usually morning, and then whatever they need. Group teach as much as possible. I teach my second, third, and fourth graders geography, history, science, social studies, multiple things all together, and just have different expectations as to what they will do with it, right? One, write a sentence and draw me a picture. Next one, I want you to write a paragraph. Tell me a little bit more. My fourth grade, I want you to have a paragraph written, and I want you to be able to tell Daddy articulately what you learned about today. So expect different things, but teach together. It cuts down on teaching time. Feel free to use a different schedule every year. Do school week for 6 weeks. Take a week off. You have something to look forward to. You are able to catch up. Everyone gets a breather. Do school 4 days and take a day off every week. My husband has Thursdays off. He's a pastor. He has Thursdays off, and it's hard to do schoolwork when he's home and everyone wants to see him. So we teach typically the other 4 days, and we take Thursdays off. We get it all done. Instead of taking snow days, take beautiful days. You're stuck inside anyways. Might as well do your schoolwork, and when the weather's great, get out of the house and go have fun. Your first day, make it fun and memorable. Have an awesome breakfast, whatever your family loves. Take some more time doing that. Make it special, like a party. Look over the new school books. Get anticipation building. Look, oh, this looks exciting. What do you think about this? Skim it. Maybe you establish a school name. Some families do that. Create a time capsule that you can look back to at the end of the year and see how far they came. Ask them questions about favorite things doing. Have them, hey, write all the letters you know. Change it. It's really neat to see. You'll see how far they come. First week, start with one subject or two. Take it easy. Ease into a full course load. Add more with each week. And then your first month, work up to full speed. Remain flexible. Celebrate the 1 month mark. Do something. You are doing it. You guys are succeeding at it. What to expect? My time's out, so I'm going to fly through this. But you're going to expect comments, good and bad. You're going to have difficulties, minor and major. You're going to have fun on purpose and also sometimes just as a surprise. From your children, there's going to be negative and positive things. They will forget what you are sure they understood the day before. And you may have to teach it more than once. You will have well-rounded children. There'll be growth and blessings abounding. And is it worth it? Absolutely. Philippians 3:6 says, being confident of this very thing, that he which began a good work will perform it. It's not always easy, but it is worth it. And I wouldn't change a thing about our homeschooling. Here's the review. Just so you know, all of these are also online. You can print off these slides, okay? First year theme, if we're giving themes, is surviving. You will feel like that most days. Second year theme, surviving plus. Okay? Third year theme, striving, surviving as needed. It gets less. And then fourth and following years, you're going to thrive. But you will survive once in a while, just for old time's sake. But all I can say is that if God puts it on your heart to homeschool, he will help you do it. You will be able to do it. And it will bless you in so many ways other than just educationally. So I hope that you feel like you can start this journey and enjoy your weekend. Thank you.
To replace this recording or view your recording account, visit alliancerecordings.com and log in with your email. The message is copyrighted by the Massachusetts Homeschool Organization of Parent Educators. All rights reserved.